biggest mistake that all Muslims do, that means across the globe, across the cultures as well and age, is that they expecting to get better under the condition that the environment will change. Yes, I'm going back to same old saying, well, actually not saying, a directive from Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change your position until you change yourself. And it's so true. Even today, we tend to think about our circumstances rather about what is it in us that contributed to this situation. We don't think of ourselves as an active agent of our pain, of our ibtila. So I hope this video is going to help you to reconstruct the way you're approaching your self-growth. So what I mean here is that majority of Muslims, and probably it is because we are not only culturally, but also religiously prepared to think about ourselves as a roles, meaning as a mother, as a father, as a daughter. We are sort of programmed religiously to treat it very seriously, rightly so, but we over-investing ourselves in these roles. It's almost like we don't see anything beyond that. So what I mean by that is that we probably been told many examples from Qouran and Sunnah about guardianship, about being Khalifa on this earth, about being guardian over our family, that is for men, and guardian over our house and our children, that is if you are a female, about necessity to maintain kinship, relationships with our family members, cousins, but also being kind to our parents. So we sort of programmed that way. However, for some really odd reasons, we not prepared to see beyond. And before I show you what is beyond, I want to share with you a chapter from my book, actually, a sum of research that I've conducted over 4 years before I published my book, Islamically Inspired Self-Development. Just to show you, you are not wrong. You are a social being, but there's more layers to you. You can't actually heal from pain. You can't actually grow if you are stuck on the level of behavioral, structural, family, and social psychology. You can't. There is more to you than that. There is overarching cadre of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we would probably call spiritual or moral and ethical psychology, and there is your humanistic, individualistic self based on psychology in humanism. So if you don't recognize those components of your core being, you will never be able to up your game. You'll be basically stuck here and you will never see beyond. Okay, I hope it helps. Now, what do I mean by that? And I will still sort of display it for you because some of you might need time to absorb this knowledge. Well, yes, the guardianship, the roles that you're playing, they are very important because you're going to be taken into accountability for every amal that you had been taken, that you had committed yourself to in those relationships. But you know what? You also have relationship with yourself. And you also have relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if not, the most important is with your God, and then with yourself, and then with others. What do I say it this way? Well, because accountability on the day of judgment, something that we all scared of, something that we all remember in the back of our mind, hopefully when we wake up on a daily basis, is a quite important thing. It's also quite scary thing if we don't conceptualize it properly. So in Surah Baqarah, God tells you that to Allah belongs all that is in the heaven and all that is in the earth, and whatever you disclose, what is in yourself, in your heart, or conceal it, God will call you to account for it. Okay, so this ayat, one of the most beautiful surahs in Quran, doesn't talk about you performing the roles, you being the best that you can as a parent or as a spouse. It talks about your internal world. And he knows, he's closer to you than your jugular vein. He knows, and he's going to take you into accountability for it, meaning you have to look at your internal dialogue. So you don't only look at your relationships with others, but also at your relationship with yourself. And then we have Surah Nisa, Allah, there is no deity except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will surely assemble you on the day of resurrection, about which there's no doubt. And who is more truthful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his statement? This ayat doesn't say he's going to assemble you with your family. On the contrary, we will be in different families. There will be two families, two tribes, those who are going to Jahannam and those who are going to Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all. And there will be within us on the day of resurrection no sentiments actually about family relations, something that we are ordered here to maintain so daily as the Muslims. It's going to be about give and take. What have you got on your scale, hasanas, that I can take from you, because I need to present it on my akhirah, for my akhirah, on my day of judgment. You know, my akhirah is on scale. So there will be no sentiments, actually. It's going to be you and only you and your internal dialect, your relationship with yourself and your relationship with Allah and your relationship with others. So what I'm saying is it's not wrong. However, if it's over exaggerated and you don't see what's underneath, what's beneath, then you're missing out the point about accountability. Actually, accountability relates to taqwa, yeah, which is indicator of how we take ourselves to accountability before the accountability is being taken over us. And this is more than less, I paraphrase to you, a saying of Ibn Khattab, al-Khattab. And taking yourself into accountability shouldn't be only at the level of how you're performing in those relationships with your closest ones, but also how you taking yourself, how you're growing, how you're healing yourself from your nerves and from your diseases of the heart. So we're talking about two really important, very similar actually, in terms of self-development components. So truly in the body, there is a morsel of flesh, which if it's sound, the rest of your body is sound. And we know this hadith, right? We know that it is finished with saying, truly, this is your spiritual heart. And then we have like famous imams like Al-Nawawi said that this hadith was used to prove that the most important organ, like the seat of the mind, is your heart. Al-Aql fil al-Qalb, and it's not your head. So that's how important your spiritual growth is. And if you ever studied self-development, actually the spiritual growth happens just after you developed yourself emotionally, just after you developed yourself cognitively. So it is the pinnacle. Yeah, it is that point when you're experiencing catharsis, but it's not going to happen if you stay at the level of what do I do in relationships, how relationships affecting me. It's not going to happen to you. And then there's another aspect of you, which is soul, which we call nerves. And we know that it's developing in threefold way. It sort of grows into being at the state of pure spirituality. We call it tranquility, sakina. And we know about the soul from hadith, we know about the soul from Quran, like by the soul and by him who made it perfect and then inspired it to understand what is wrong and what is right for you. Truly is successful the one who purifies his soul. So what if you want to think about your day of accountability and about actions that you're taking into that day, then think about, have you been actively purifying yourself? And what is tazkiyah? What is purifying yourself? It's actually working on yourself, taking yourself into accountability. What are diseases of the heart? What is that ugliness of your nerves from psychology perspective? Well, these are the ugly shadow selves of yourself. So Young would call it shadow selves, right, from psychoanalytic perspective. So these are the things that we don't want to face, yet clearly in our heritage of healing, we are more than encouraged. And then we have Nabi saying that blessed are those who have performed the minor hijab, jihad, sorry, minor jihad. And what is major and what is minor jihad? And then Prophet Sallallahu said the minor jihad is a fight, but the major jihad is the self-struggle against your own self. So you're not struggling against your own nafs, so against your drives, but against your doubts. If you can have in-depth relationship with yourself, when you know yourself at the level of your shadow self, then you shouldn't have worries on the day of Ahra, because you understand that everything that you are internally and externally had been taken into evaluation by you before that evaluation happens for you on the day of judgment. And we don't know when our day of judgment happens. We don't know when our time is up. I hope it's helpful. Please sign up to my YouTube channel, AJS Therapy, for more videos like this. And today we covered the first major mistake that all Muslims do when they're trying to outgrow their pain, heal from their pain, and that is thinking of themselves that they are just all, and they don't see what's beneath. And there's plenty beneath. There's qalb, there's the spiritual self, there is nafs, there is the internal struggle, as well as there is the responsibility for, you know, how they conducting themselves, how they maintaining their relationship with themselves and with their Lord. I see you next video. That was Aisha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.